Kelly. And welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation this morning as we take a deeper look into the recently amended crime bills with attorney Richard Dickie Bradley. Good morning.
Good.
And welcome.
One of your staff says it's a beautiful morning.
It is.
It is? God be praised. Another beautiful morning. No look sunburn. I never gone here. Easter. Good
but
morning.
Thank you for being here.
Can I start with the good news? Because the rest of it will be all bad. Apart from the fact that I understand you did have a show on little dogs. We need a show on the starving dogs. Both the 2-foot and the 4-foot ones. Listen, about 2 weeks ago at Bird's Isle, a man named Clarence William, aka Tapper, and Shana Swift, who works at the Supreme Court, they tied that proverbial knot. Loved an awesome thing. Bird's Isle was filled up. In fact, Judge Hanuman Singh and Judge Sonia Young were dancing at Tapper's wedding. There were magistrates and lawyers. They seemed to be everywhere. And people from out district, from village, from Mascal. Awesome. So, you know, I want to wish the newlyweds all the very best. A fabulous thing. More people should be getting married in the society. Yeah. I need to start off by saying to you, Marlene, that in one of the gazettes that came out in March of this year, among several bills were 4 proposed laws which went to the House of Representatives. And of course, anything that goes to the House, brought by the House, for the House, is passed by the House and went to the Senate. There is a police amendment to the police law, Police Act. And I bring it only because I can't help myself. I want to mention something there. There is an amendment to the Firearms Act, which changes the definition of ammunition and changes the definition of firearm, and makes provision for a number of matters which this morning I'm almost certain we won't have time in the few minutes to deal with the other matter. There is an important proposed law, which no doubt was passed, which is called the Protection of Witnesses Act, which is hefty. It goes to 50 pages. And since you have Kevin as your co-host, that is a matter we need to look at some time in the not too distant future. There are a lot of things also in the Gazette, but I won't have time to go there.
So the 4 major
acts
that were changed in regards to the crime situation was the police. The portions
no, the police thing is only to discipline junior police officers, have a kangaroo court and set you up and so on.
Witness protection.
Yes, the
firearms
and crime
control, right?
Yes.
And as I was mentioning earlier, the situation with the declaration of the emergency zone has been put on hold. We've been told by the Attorney General. Of course, he has mentioned that if things do flare up, they're giving time for mediation and intervention to work. That's what he said. And if things do flare up, then they will look at it once again. The documentation is prepared. But these 4 changes have been established. And that's what we want to talk about this morning. I want to start off with what I think is one of the critical areas that we have been lacking or falling behind on for quite some time, and that is the Witness Protection Act. And we've heard many reasons why. Resources, the country's too small. Talk to us about what is within that particular legislation.
Well, as I said, it's a 50-page legislation, and the Crime Control Act is a 34 pages, so we won't have the time. But the situation is that in a small country like Belize, it is very hard to protect witnesses if they are within the boundaries from the Rio Hondo without the SAR stone. It is, I think Kevin would agree, it's a necessary matter for persons who feel that I don't going to put myself or my family at risk to get involved with any matter. If the government is saying that there is a state of emergency in some areas of the south side of Belize City, then if they can come and admit that after 10 years or some failure to do anything about all the root causes that have produced the levels of violence and criminality in the society, then persons have a justifiable concern to say, I am not going to show myself. Now, when
the
we come,
two
if we
things we
get
normally see: either witnesses don't show up, or they get to court and they no longer
can't recall.
they can't recall, or they're saying that the statement they gave was inaccurate. So really 3 different instances.
Yes.
What have you read in this particular legislation that you feel will help to address that?
Well, you can, I think there is, the DPP had been in discussion with the relevant authorities. I think that in certain particular situations, it would help if we, which in everything have 2 sides to it, but it would help if you could get a visa and go to America and take your family. Because, there's, in the crime control, there is a very serious matter which deals with this matter. And maybe I should start there to assist in the discussion. And I have a different view. When I read these things, I tend to look at it from the point of view that, there's nothing altruistic about these things. What is happening is people have just gone, they've just gone crazy. Page 29, section 5P of part 1C is dealing with, the side note says, the trial procedures. This is the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act. It says the trial procedures, and it lays down how trials will be held in relation to all the matters we hopefully will get to discuss in regards to gang membership, people who are benefiting from gangs, people who are assisting gangs, and so on. And there are a couple of things. Let me start by showing you how difficult the problem is. It says that first of all, the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Amendment Law is taking away jury trial in regards to all the offenses which the Crime Control Amendment is dealing with. As it relates to gangs, there are 2 pages of crimes in relation to gangs. If gangs do any of these things here, 2 pages, for which you will not have a jury hearing your case. A few years ago, they took away jury trial in the case of murder, and it has made no difference. In fact, it will seem to me as an outsider, sometimes peeping in, that you get less conviction when you go in front of a judge, requiring the judge to be both judge of law and judge of facts, meaning he is also the jury. But he can't help himself because he thinks like a lawyer, he thinks like a judge. He will see legal loopholes and problems in relation to a trial. Whereas as a judge, he will advise and give directions and in some cases instructions to the jury. But the jury are the judges of the facts. They decide on the basis of the evidence in the court that you're guilty or you're not guilty. This is really, really crazy that for dozens of offenses, the law is saying at the part I just referred to, there will be no jury. This is judge alone. We are going down a slippery slope. They started it in relation to murder, attempted murder, and a couple of offenses which may be applied for in the court. The DPP can say, I don't want to try him with one jury. I want no jury. Now they are putting it in legislation. It's increasingly going to
For
turn
specifically gang offenses?
Yeah, but a lot of offenses, which includes not just gangs, other persons who can innocently be caught up in relation to gang matters. So let's start there. The second thing is, and this is an opinion, that in that same section that speaks, I hope I don't have no, because I did get carried away last week or so when I was marking up my thing. But listen to this part, which would be of interest to both yourself and your co-host, is that it says in the crime control new law, in relation to any witness called or appearing before the court, the name, the identity, the address of the witness, and such other particulars concerning the witness, as in the opinion of the court, shall be kept confidential, shall not be published. Next section. No particulars of the trial, other than the name of the accused, the offense for which he is charged, and the verdict and sentence. Nothing else shall be published without prior written approval of the court. That is a secret trial. All you all can say is that such a person was charged for such an offense, found guilty, and was sentenced to 30 years in jail. You can't say nothing else. That is,
Does it
I don't know what
specify
that
what
word.
type
That is
of
like
offense
an
we're
team.
talking about?
Sorry?
Does it specify what type of offenses we're
The
talking
whole
about?
list of offenses
The
I
gang,
just held
yeah.
up to your camera, which goes to what, 28 offenses?
This is to the defense as well as to the public, or
No, this is to the nation. Nobody can publish anything other than the name of the person, the offense, and his sentence. Kevin, you know that has to be, Marlene, you know it has to be anathema in a democratic society, in tiny little Belize, where we have seen a number of things. What is that? I can understand witness protection. I can understand that we can have video link. I can understand that providing the safeguards are involved, you can have a witness give a statement in front of 2 or 3 persons who can depone and say that I was present, the person gave the witness statement of their own free will, nobody coerce or threaten or whatever it is. I can understand we try to go and protect witnesses because the system depends on that. But can I tell you something right now? They have reached a stage right now where you can have a trial and you don't need the witness.
don't need a jury.
They don't need the jury, and now you can have, that is where we are already, but now what they're saying is the media, the public, the country will not be told anything other than such a person was sentenced.
For gang-related offenses.
Yes, they are, but it is 28 offenses we're talking about.
Can you just highlight a couple of the offenses which might not necessarily be the stereotypical
All right, the law uses the word serious offenses. So there's a schedule at the back of all a lot of words. Gang-related activity, i.e. serious offenses. So long as it's a gang-related activity and has to do with possession of imitation firearms, you won't have no jury trying you. If it's a theft of a motor vehicle, if it's arson, if you're handling stolen goods in pursuance of any kind of gang-related activity, if you're coercing or you're encouraging gang membership, which is as wide as the open sea, if it's participation in criminal activity in association with a gang. I mean, we live in yards where you have 2, 3 houses in the yard, one gang man at the back, I open the gate, why I encourage a gang man? It's a whole harboring or concealing gang members, recruiting gang members, threatening to publish with the intent to extort, demanding money. Well, murder is always there, robbery, aggravated assault, all those things which are in the Crime Control Act, where they say you're not going to get bail from a magistrate, you're automatically going to go to jail for 5 years if you're found with any firearm, etc. Kidnapping, aggravated burglary, and attempt to commit any of the 28 things. Attempt as well. No jury will sit and listen to your case. All right? This isn't in a society where I'm reliably informed that our good friends, the Americans, have been able to convince our judiciary that we need a specialized court to deal with, I think it's human trafficking. And they want a specialized judge to deal, who can come and tell us? Any judge can't hear that matter? You know what we're getting into when you start to specifically target different people to do things because they claim we're not doing enough, you know?
But
I can't help myself.
couldn't the argument be that if you have one person who is more trained than the others to be able to handle sensitive cases, especially like human trafficking, then they would be in a better position? It's like your police officers on rotation. Sometimes they're in family violence, sometimes they're not. The ones who have the sensitivity training may not be there when they're needed.
These are not police. These are highly trained
But I'm giving the
persons.
example of having somebody
Yeah,
who's specially trained.
Yes.
Or what if you argue that, like the family courts is a specialized
Yeah.
court that deals only with family matters?
Yeah, but you and I don't want to go there, and 90% of the lawyers don't want to go there because they say it's bureaucratic. You wait hours for end. The decisions don't appear to be fair. All kind of things which lawyers are complaining about. So if you say to me you're stuck with only dealing with 2 or 3 magistrates at the family court, no. Let me then just say, having looked at that, which is at the tail end of the legislation, which is a very, very serious matter. Come on, I mean, something is wrong with our society. And I stand corrected. I don't, I'm not, I spend my time out at sea on weekends. It's a way to keep sane, but I don't think that the Bar Association has said anything.
That was my next question.
Okay. I just want to say that. I don't want to. Let me go a little bit into it so the viewers
Yeah,
can.
I can tell you.
Yes.
My question was in terms of consultation. These seem to be massive changes. And before we go on, I want you to you did the tail end. I wanted you to look at the head, which is how do they define a gang member?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because I
that
think
is in the
is
definition.
important.
Listen, I know we're running out of time, so I want to say this. In the police amendment law, among the many things that police officers, junior officers, let me just make sure of that, can be taken to the kangaroo court that the police are well known for setting up. It is a major offense. It is a major offense for a police, or any police, to use traitorous or disloyal words regarding Her Majesty. See, you laugh. I've elicited a laugh. Because, come on, man, I mean, we fight for free independence from 1960s, get it 1981. It is true that Her Majesty the Queen is the titular head of the state for reasons that has to do with Guatemala and British troops. But man, when you reach a stage in 2018 where any police can't say, well, to hell with Her Majesty the Queen, he's in a major trouble, you know.
We need to focus. We need to focus the conversation.
Colonial.
And we want, but we really want people
it's
to
the
be
same
able to get
people,
the same
it's the
understanding.
same people that pass their foolishness when they do this to it. That's the point I want to make.
Okay,
Yeah?
understood.
All
But
right.
let's put this in context.
Yes, let's go from the beginning.
We saw these bills being introduced, and now they've been passed because of an upsurgence in crime in the city. The government was at the point they were willing to declare certain portions of the city emergency zones. They never moved into that direction, but this is part of the solution they're offering. So what we want to talk about is to be able to understand what exactly these laws entail. Okay. And I think Kevin's question in terms of, let us start with understanding how the laws are now defining this illegal activity of being a gang member.
Good, that's as good a place as any. The law is named an act to amend the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act to make provisions for better maintenance of public safety and order through discouraging membership in criminal gangs and disrupting and suppressing criminal gangs. That's the name of this particular amendment, which, as I say, run to 34 pages. It has 4 parts. There's a part 1, part 1A, a part 1B, and a part 1C, and part 1D. The part 1 is just to say this act may be cited as the Criminal Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act. Then it has a whole page and a half of definitions or interpretation of what words mean. Among those things, it says that a gang means an organization, an association, a combination, or other arrangement consisting of 3 or more persons. 3 or more persons, you're a gang. If you're an association, you're an organization, you're doing this and so. 3 or more persons, whether they're formal or they're informal. Organized and they commit or has one of its objectives or purposes the commission or facilitating the commission of a serious offense. A serious offense at that list I was taking a quick peep at, which is at in the schedule to the law. So 3 or more persons, you're a gang. A gang leader means a person who knowingly initiates, organizes, plans, finances, directs, manages, or supervises a gang-related activity. He's a gang leader because in the law he is singled out for heavier punishment. A gang member means a person, including the gang leader, who belongs to a gang, or a person who knowingly acts in the capacity of an agent or an accessory to, or voluntarily associate himself with any gang-related activity. That's kind of word, kind of wide, Attorney Kevin Arthur. You associate yourself with gang-related activities. I mean, what are gang-related activities? You meet Saturday morning and smoke weed on the street side or under one house bottom. All right. They define gang-related activity. So you are doing that whether in preparation, execution, or concealment phase of any such activity, or a person who knowingly performs, aids, or abets any such activity. So we have gang is defined and gang members are defined and a gang leader is defined. Gang-related activities defined. Harboring, which is a very serious offense. Harboring means giving refuge or shelter to another person and encouraging or supporting, whether tacitly or explicitly. I don't know why you would put a word like tacitly in a law. You want words that people can understand. Tacitly or explicitly, that person in committing any gang-related activity. So there are some important definitions as to those words. Can I also say that the law lists out police department, the customs department, the income tax department, the Belize Defense Force, the National Coast Guard, and any other agency at the state will have investigative powers and so on. Because any police officer or prison officer or customs officer, or I think not custom officer, but prisons, the BDF, the Army, and law enforcement agencies that do anything which is a gang-related matter, they are singled out for a higher form of punishment. As is the reverse. Anybody who try to shoot at them or harm them or create a grievous bodily harm to a police officer or a prison officer or a BDF or so are going to be singled out for more excessive punishment than the regular set of punishments. So having put those portions to rest.
Let me be clear. We know that it was always an offense, or it has been an offense before, to be a gang member or to be involved in gang-related activity. What I've heard from you so far is simply clear definitions and roles being defined as to gang member, gang leader, association, and the different activities they may engage in. Is that what is happening here?
Yes, that's an attempt to make it a little bit more clearer as to who a gang member is, who is a gang leader, what is the gang-related activity. And then, as I have said, there are offenses which are called serious offenses in relation to this particular legislation.
Now, here's my other question. In Belize, in the media, we publish it as well, there are persons who are known to be associates of gangs. There are persons who are known to be leaders of gangs. And one of the questions that's always posed to us by viewers is if someone can say, especially police, this person is associated with this gang, then that is a known offense because they are a member of a gang.
Yes.
So how do you prove these offenses? And you can't tell me why the police didn't persecute them before, but obviously my assumption would
Kevin can tell you.
My assumption would be that being able to prove, if I live at this street and 10 people hang out with me, you still can't prove that I'm doing gang-related activities, although you may know or have an intuition that it's a gang that I formed.
Listen, I think the purpose of the legislation is to bring in draconian provisions in relation to punishment. And this law is so draconian that there's an unusual provision which I will highlight right now. And I want to say that I recall many years ago Glenn Tillett and the media saying when we were complaining about what we thought was draconian at the time, he says that in many democracies they have provision to review legislation. It's not a, it's not something cast in stone. I think Moses threw down the first set of 10 commandments. He was so annoyed when he saw the carnival going on. So it's not cast in stone and you should review. Guess what? At the end of this law, the minister is to carry out a review of the provisions of this law after 3 years. After 3 years, they are taking a look. And he is to report to the National Assembly the review of the legislation. That has to be, to me, an indication that the people who know that they push something draconian upon the society are trying to give you some kind of lease up on the side to say, well, you're not knock out because we're getting a chance to go over it and whatnot. Okay? Now, I know better, and I will tell you one reason why. There was an amendment. There have been many amendments to the crime control law, as Kevin can bear me out. Many. Some very foolish ones. Those of us who are on the sea after dark, and if you have a problem, you can take your flare gun. We come along when you buy a boat. Your business and have your fire extinguisher, your flare gun, your compass. Nowadays they got GPS. Nowadays your phone got GPS. But you could shoot up a flare gun. Anyone away that sees a flare goes off, we know somebody's in distress. It's a serious matter to be in distress at sea. You can't haul up on the roadside and flag down nobody. You're out in the dark. And when people say dark, they think shark. So they made it a criminal offense, 5 years in jail if you had a flare gun. That's how bad it was. All right, so I know the kind of talking there. The talking. Okay, let's look at what is happening. At section 3, they say that a person who is a gang member or in order to gain an unlawful benefit profess to be a gang member when in fact he is not. Boy, the judge sheet, boy, the ghost tongue, where it is. You are professing to be a gang member when you're not. It don't matter. You don't get it. And this is the way you don't get. If you go to magistrate court, you don't get up to 10 years. If you go to Supreme Court for that offense of being a gang member, or they talk big like, they better not fool with my girl because me the judge sheet, because me the this, because me the that, you don't get it. 25 years.
Hold on, that's very important for me, because some years ago we increased the penalties for certain basic offenses. We just saw someone who their appeal was overturned in the Court of Appeal from life imprisonment, and they were given a lesser sentence. 20 years is the sentence that you get for manslaughter.
For taking a life.
So they are saying, if I'm getting it right, that the same thing for pretending to say that you are a member of some gang, you're a member of George Street, or a member of Orange Walk Street gang, that you will get the same punishment for somebody who has actually killed somebody?
No, you get more. Then get 20, you don't get 25. You don't get 25. Let me read this again for your viewers. Marlene, this is what it says. A person who is a gang member or, listen carefully, in order to gain an unlawful benefit, professes to be a gang member when in fact he is not. Whether by telling anyone that he is a gang member or otherwise suggests to anyone that he is a gang member. In other words, if you do so, that's a form of telling somebody, 25 years if you go to the Supreme Court. Let me run through a couple things because it's so long, that's only page 5. A person who is a gang leader commits an offense by virtue of being such a member. And if you go to magistrate court, 25 years is the maximum. And if they take him to the Supreme Court, 40 years in jail. The lawyer who sits on your as a bench, or the lawyer who sits on your side of the court right now is saying to you, the Court of Appeal in Belize, our higher court is looking at sentences. A man commits murder and is found guilty. You can't just tell him you're going to spend life imprisonment in jail. That don't cut it anymore. You have to make provisions that he could come out on parole. You have to listen. You talk about kill somebody that 20 years or life. You talk about you don't gang. They want to say you don't want gang leader and you go in a jail for 40 years. You understand where they're going?
I understand
All
what
right,
you're
good.
saying, and
I'm just being rhetorical.
I hear the concerns, but
Yeah.
what the most nagging question I have, and that's why I was going back to witness protection. We do not see charges of gang being a member of a gang. We do every now and again, but not very frequently. So my point is, even with tougher sentences, even with clear defined offenses, where is the proof? How does one prove that I have said that I am a member of my street gang, or that you have a gang member in your house knowingly? Where does that take place? In order for it to go through to the point of sentencing, we have to have the proof for the person to come forward. So where is that outlined in the law?
It's outlined in the law in that a police officer of a certain rank or his deputy can apply to the court for an injunction so that they can tell you you cannot leave Ladyville for the next 2 years. You cannot go to Ghost Town for the next year and a half. The police are going to be the person to go to the Supreme Court to make an application to prohibit you from doing certain things or to require you to do certain things. In other words, you come to the police station. There's a weird thing in there that they say when they apply for certain things, you can't keep one person for more than 8 years. You have to allow them to be, more than 8 hours. You have to allow them to go to work and so. Like when you read it, so where that come from that you could tell me to do something for up to 8 hours or tell me not to go somewhere for up to 8 hours? Where that come from? I'll tell you what I'll do. For the next 3 or 4 minutes, let me just tell you some of the offenses and the stiff penalty, and then we could look at something. Yeah. Before we go there, I want to tell you a most disturbing thing. Darrell Carter, who, because of where he's situated on the south side and who had this upholstery thing a lot of people pass through, gone on the interview, couple of young boys. Where they going? We don't know where happening, school open, where we want to do and where we want to be. You know what a young primary school student said to him? Yeah. When I get bigger, I want to be a shatter. Me and you know that there are people who think so from early age, but our society doesn't appreciate it. The people who pass laws do not appreciate that it is a social problem of a major nature that has been ongoing on the south side of Belize City in particular for a long time and is not being dealt with. Can I just say this before I then go back to this lengthy process of the crime controller? Can I just say this part here? One weekend, 2 or 3 weekends ago, there were 5 murders. If you live on the south side of Belize City and you hear the gunshots and the police up and down and so on, it is a most disconcerting way to live. Kevin, for a long time, and still has roots on the south side of Belize City and in Lake Independence. A liar lives in Lake Independence, the only one. I had a way down the Wagner Lane in the Lake Independence. So he heard the gunshot, whether the police gunshot or, you know, Marlene and Kevin. That weekend, the Prime Minister of Belize, on a Sunday when he should be in church, called an emergency cabinet meeting and came out with an emergency decision that they would declare a state of emergency, the situation being so frightening and disturbing where Belize had reached. Guess what? That same week, that was a Sunday morning afternoon press conference. The Thursday of that week and the Friday of that week, the elected leaders of this country, the elected leaders who sit on the government side, are discussing the budget for the next 12 months. There is no debate on crime. There was no debate on what is causing this. There's no debate on how we can move forward to tackle this problem. Making another amendment to the Crime Control Act has nothing to do with solving crime. We as a society have to be upfront with ourselves. Kevin can tell you, we are always in court discussing these matters, and so there have been amendments after amendments after amendments after amendments. This is just another, except that they are so desperate because of the Belize City Council election results that they want to show them they do something, so they come out with a 34-page thing for lock up people for 20 years, 25 years, 40 years, and so on. Listen, man, it is a social problem. You need to put money in Girl Guides, in scouts, in schools, in music, in dancing, in culture. You need to take all in dull yellow light off and then lamppost and put bright white light. You need to put cameras all over the place. You need to give the police motorcycle, bicycle, vehicles for them to be able to patrol our society. But more than that, you need to invest in the human capital of our people. This is really big time bull, you know. I'm sorry I'm on television and can't use the words I want to use. This is a very serious thing, you know why? Because a lot of people, including innocent people, will go to jail for a very long time. When they pass that stupid law that anything to do with gun or bullet, even one rusty bullet where they don't even test yet, they arrest you and the magistrate can't give you bail, so you go to jail the very time you leave court. That there was a situation where a very elderly lady, her husband having died many years, the shotgun so rusty, I don't even know how they see it, lean up by the fire heart in one of the rural areas. But the police took that lady and charged her for having an unlicensed firearm. And she had to go to jail. Now, okay, how the magistrate cry and say, I'm so sorry, I have to go to jail. That will also happen when you do these knee-jerk, want to fool people kind of legislation. So let me move away from that and go back and tell you very quickly. If you are benefiting from any gang-related matter, you go to magistrate court, you have to pay up to $10,000. Or go to jail for 15 years. Or pay the money and go to jail. I got one I want to bring up. If you are obtaining any benefit from any of these gang or gang-related criminal activities, listen to this one here. It is 15 years imprisonment. If it is a company or one of these corporations, one of these legal entities, they are to pay $500,000. So what is going on in society? Anybody who conceal or dispose or share the proceeds of gang activity, 20 years the jail. That's the maximum. All these things I'm calling is the maximum. Or if you're a company or a corporate body or these business entities set up by law where you are referred to as you're not a legal person, but you're treated as a legal person, you pay $500,000. If you go about to try to recruit anybody to belong to a gang, 10 years if you go to magistrate court. And if it's a child that you're trying to recruit, you go for 15 years of jail. 15 years, you know, the lawyer just tell you 20 years if you take life. If you go around school or church or any rehabilitation place or so, 20 years in jail. If you try to prevent or you deter or you obstruct persons from ceasing to be in a gang, go to magistrate court, 5 years. You go to Supreme Court, 25 years. If you do any kind of retaliation, now the bourgeoisie in our society, the middle class, the upper classes, they will love these things. I think you could impress them with this. Anybody who will retaliate in terms of, it's a bad one and I'm being unfair, if you go snitch, and the man find out you snitch by name to the police, and you commit any retaliation against them, you go to the Supreme Court, you can go to jail for 25 years. 25 years. If you try to stop somebody from snitching. Can I make this point? Because when I read this and I was thinking about it, can I tell you something? You see that provision Kevin had me go to direct for the secret trial and the matter that you can't say the who, you can't say this, you can't report nothing. Let me tell you something. At some stage, you could even maybe not even carry the man to court. These are the word within the pan. You just know you get arrested and go to prison and somebody else can tell you, boy, you get 40 years for so and so. At how then they go. But you can remove the witness, you can remove everybody from the court, you could not give no name, you could not say nothing. But that person know who caused them for going to jail. You still kill your man. You die in a jail and send him motherfucker and make her get 25 years, you know, dead, you know. You understand? We need to deal with how it is a human being 15 years of age is quite happy and quite ready to pick up a gun and go hunt down somebody and shoot them on behalf of somebody else. That is the problem that we need to deal with. We have to make sure they have to go to school, Marlene and Kevin. You have to be in school. You have to learn a trade. You have to go to college. Then find money for everything else. Somebody get up and holler, oh, I will take $1 million out of the budget and pay the UDP teachers who never going to support the union. You know, for $1 million, you can't find $100,000 to make everybody the inner Girl Guides and Scouts. They are not tackling the problem. Let me finish off with this. If you impersonate, if you put on, you know, you got some people that put on camouflage and you put on like one police uniform or a law enforcement uniform and so, you can go to jail for 5 years. And it's hard to, the lawyer will tell you, it's difficult. You could say, sex somebody like who for sex. They won't harass him directly. Because he's a man who, he admires Che Guevara and Fidel Castro. He have on, that is not no BDF uniform. BDF uniform must not mean the law. Can then get them alone, then give them American uniform. And there's no law where say that after 8 green patches, there are no 6 gray patches. What is a uniform? You know the trouble you got for people, but it don't matter, you know, because can I tell you this? And I'm really sorry for like I'm always on the other side and so. You know what the police do some of them, boy? Grab them and rough them up and then haul up their sleeve or tear their shirt and then see they got on something from LA or something and they carry them in a court and say, displaying a gang paraphernalia. That's the way it happen, you know. Officers who are supposed to be bigger than that and above that. Okay, so these things open themselves to abuses. Imagine if they're saying that, how bad it's going to be. Because, let me jump ahead and say something to you. The law is, you're not to use a common name, or you're not to use an identifying sign, or a symbol, or a tattoo, or tattoos, or any kind of physical marking, or colors, or style of dress, or graffiti. You can't make a record, you can't go perform, you know, sometimes the artist and they perform and then they say thing and so, and then they sell this and then they go in jail for 5 years.
What is a common name?
You would have to help the viewers with that kind of thing because in my case you would have heard Marlene say...
A nickname?
Go again?
Like an alias?
Is a common name a nickname? So like Dickie is offensive?
Dickie is my real name.
Oh.
I don't name no Richard. My son, who is a lawyer, named Richard Bradley. I need Dickie Bradley, but I read in one of Shakespeare thing, what is in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name is just as sweet.
But a nickname is a common name.
They say you're not to use one common name. They don't define common name. My boy, police could call a court and say the man use a common name. I don't know if they say that what. Puff Daddy, that's a common, I don't know.
So Shine.
It's not defined.
So Shine is a...
Shine would be in
5
trouble,
years.
but I don't know if that is his real name because he has several other names. He's Jamal and he's Moses and so on.
Wow.
But I can't help you with that, but I'm just reading to you what the law is. Now, Section 4 of the law is saying that the police can break into your house without any warrant and say he's looking for a gang member. That's the law. Without warrant. Break into your house. The law is they can take your personal property, your vehicle, your gold chain.
And these are all under suspicion of gang-related activity?
Yes. This law is about gang membership, gangs involved in serious offenses, which are listed in the law, all those things. Draconian legislation, but we have lived in our society long enough to know that can I make this other point to both of you? If it was legislation, if it was draconian laws, if it was locking up people for a long, long time, that was the solution to crime, that is the way to solve crime, hey baby, we're going clear, we'd have solved crime easily. In Jamaica, they could pass the most draconian laws. In Honduras and Salvador and those places, In the mighty United States of America, Donald Trump could pass any law and bomb Syria before the week is out. He can pass any law because laws can't solve social and human problems. The problem is that in Belize City right now, and I'm going to say it, there are people who steal the shit in a bucket and throw it in their backyard. We don't have a sewer system, we don't have a basic thing. People are poor and they eat noodles for 5-6 years. People are suffering in our society. You have to deal with the sufferation. You know why? The reason is that we are molding a wrong set of citizens. When a child can tell you want to be a shutter, it's so bad. I want to say something else before you tell me it's time to go. Can I tell you just this? I'm sorry to say this. I'm going to say that Christianity, the Christian religion as practiced in Belize, is failing us. Okay? All right, let me just look at one and two other things and then I will.
Can I ask this?
I want to get this in about
Can I ask this?
Of the injunctions, which is even more serious.
Let me just.
Can I ask this? There are people out there who are saying, listen, Dickie, Belize is at civil war status. That is what Dr. Gale is telling us. There are people out there that are saying, listen, things here are getting really bad. This is probably the worst it has gotten. There are people out there who are looking to the leaders and the government and the legislators to say, do something. There are people out there who are definitely afraid, who anything you put up right now, they would buy. I heard you, in fact, acknowledge that a bit earlier. Is there a form of this legislation which is human rights friendly, which is effective? Is there a form, if they make changes here and there, that could make this effective to address, on a legislative standpoint, some of the issues that are facing the people out there?
That's an excellent question. And I have looked and I have looked. And not in this one. There's not a, this is just strictly bring down the hammer. These are boots. These are stamp you, beat you, jail you. These are no offering, nothing. Let's take a place you and I know. And the people there know I mean nothing to them. Let's take Belize area. That is on Vernon Street. Okay? It was in the news recently. People will see the images and want to know why then people go on like that. And in fact, I'm not going there. I want to make this point though. Listen, man, you have what? About 12 houses there in that little crescent. You have like 12 houses. You will tell me that we can't go and talk to them. You'll tell me, I born us outside, I grew up us outside, I gone to school, college, everything from us outside. You will tell me that we can't, that there's nobody in this society could sit down with a couple of those people, start with a couple, and say, darling, you have your children. You must want to go to sixth form, you must want to go to university, you must want to be an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is, that their little dreams can be fulfilled. It's not going to happen where you live because you live smack in the middle of low negativity and low expectations and so on and so forth. You mean we can't talk to free people? Darling, I'm offering you a house and a job. Talk to your boy and get out of this area and turn this into a nice, pretty park and name it after Mr. Bailar, the man that loved football, and have something to remember him. And maybe put up a plaque or a statue or something. We can't offer them money that for the first 2 years. You know what it will cost to put somebody in jail for 40 years? You know, better invest it in young people. So you ask an important question, but this is not for that. Let me say 3 things, and I want you to bring me back to what I want to say.
We have no time left, so we have to do one closing statement. There are
going to be 2 closing statements. Section 4B on page 17 is saying, if the Director of Public Prosecution has any information suggesting the occurrence or threatened occurrence of any gang-related crime or any conspiracy, etc., she or he can set up a committee of inquiry. The DPP is going to be involved in investigating.
Wow.
What kind of society? You know better. The Constitution set up the DPP to be the head of prosecution, answerable to nobody. You want to get involved in that? I thought we had a system in our democracy that the police investigate, the DPP and her lawyers will help them, directing them that yes, you recover the matter identification, yes, you need. That is what is in the law, but it's the area that needs to be looked at, which is even more serious than just pick up poor people and carry them in jail for many, many, many years and don't solve the problem, where they produce another one, you know. Listen, an officer of the police department, Section 5E, an application for an injunction under Section 5B may be made by the regional commander for a police area or his deputy. The police under this law can go to the court and apply for an injunction. An injunction is a legal term, meaning the court is ordering you to do something or order you from stop doing something or a number of things. And there's some foolish in here about the injunction may not include a prohibition or a requirement that has effect after the end of a period of 2 years. I mean, I can't really use the words I want to use. Do you get the least sense as to what is happening here? On the one hand, they can come and take you off and put you in prison for a very long time. On the other hand, they can go to court and start interfering with your regular liberties. You can't go here. You can't be out on the street. You have to stay home for this. You have to stay in your locality. You have to do this. You're not to do this. At least you know what an injunction is. So that is what, in a little kind of nutshell, is included in the Crime Control and Criminal Justice Act. It does not, I want to leave your show saying, it does not scratch the surface of the problem on the south side of Belize City. It is a social problem, it's a financial problem. That is what needs to be tackled. Absolutely. And if we don't tackle that, we'll waste time.
And we only scratch the surface of this conversation. It was very evident that perhaps we needed to break it down a bit more, but we're grateful that we got the snippets that we did in terms of what is most concerning out of the legislation. Thank you for being here, Dickie.
You are always welcome.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about an upcoming art exhibition called Gloria. So stay tuned.